Why do you think Bitcoin or crypto is missing from most people's portfolios?
It's still like a super new technology, really. It took 75 years to go from 5% to 70% of factories using electricity. It's just crazy.
Today we're talking with Myles Dhillon, a Bitcoin educator, author, and speaker, and co-founded the Faith and Bitcoin Gathering in the UK, bringing together conversations around faith, character, and financial freedom.
When I understood the thing about how there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence, that was when the penny really dropped for me. And I understood that the reason why our money is losing value is because...
Would you be open to sharing how much you've made in your Bitcoin investments?
I mean, it's crazy, really. It's over like is what I made on my first initial investments in Bitcoin. There's basically no hedge fund managers that beat the market for their whole career for 30 or 40 years. The best performing stock portfolios are the ones owned by dead people that they can't find who the owners of the portfolios are.
Welcome back to Invest in Rome. I'm your host, Dear Now. Today we're talking to Myles Dhillon, who is coming to us from across the pond in the UK. Myles is an author and host of the podcast, Should I Invest in Bitcoin? He talks about why crypto is still missing from most millennials' portfolios, why your traditional investing advice is holding you back, and how he built wealth on a plumber's wage. He's now traveling the world with his wife and 3 kids and is teaching people about money and purpose. Myles, welcome to Invest in Rome.
Hey, thanks, dear. It's really nice to chat to you.
Yeah. It's so awesome that you found us in the state from across the world in the UK.
No,
it's nighttime over there, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a shame because behind me is this like stunning ocean view, but it's like pitch black outside. So I would have I did a call earlier with someone and they were like, whoa, where are you? I was like, no, I'm just in England, actually. Like, no way. I was like, yeah, it's got some nice places here. It's not all bad.
Oh, maybe we'll have to do another one with while you're someplace else during the day.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So let's hop into it. So first question. So why do you think Bitcoin or crypto is missing from most people's portfolios today? Are they scared? Are they confused? Or they don't know where to start? What's your take?
I mean, it's a good first question. Getting straight into it. It's for me, I always like to differentiate straight away between Bitcoin and crypto. Like, Bitcoin is definitely a cryptocurrency, but there's a huge gap between Bitcoin and all the other tens of thousand coins you've heard of, like meme coins, fart coin, toad coin. There's just every single one. Trump coin. There's all these different coins out there, and the vast majority of them are quite scammy. They're just trying to raise money for their business, and they get exited on. When you guys all buy loads of these coins, the person who issued those coins sells their load of them, and then the price of it just dumps. There are some that have some utility, but for me, I got into Bitcoin 13 years ago now, and I didn't know what I was buying when I first got some. But over the last 13 years, having learned about it and been into all those coins when only a few of them are around, the only one that's really lasted and sustained itself is Bitcoin. And there's just a big difference between Bitcoin and all the other coins. But to answer the question, why is it missing from most people's portfolios? It's still a super new technology, really. If you think about the locomotive engine or electricity, when it was first coming into use in factories, for example, I often ask people, do you know how long it took for factories to go from 5% of factories in the US using electricity as opposed to steam or coal to go to 70% of factories in the US using steam and coal? And no one else can guess, but it took 75 years to go from 5% to 70% of factories using electricity, which is it's just crazy. You think that this new technology comes along and everybody opens their eyes and looks at it and says, wow, this is amazing. Let's all use it. But it takes a long time for people to understand it and to adopt it. So I think that Bitcoin is still quite emerging. There's a lot of people, particularly people in mainstream media, who are scared of it and then just write headlines without doing any research about what it is and how useful it could be and how it can really bring an upside to people's investment portfolios. And just for me, I think it's an amazing place to put your profit if you're in business. So I think most of it is just that it's new, and even though it's been around for a while now and it doesn't seem to be going away, I think that it's around the time Bitcoin was 17 years old a couple of days ago. It's around the time when serious business people and investors should start, taking another look at Bitcoin and thinking, I heard about Bitcoin 5 years ago, 10 years ago, and I dismissed it. And it's still here. So maybe it's time to think, maybe I should give this another look.
Yeah, definitely. I think times are changing with big institutions and, there's ETFs and stuff with crypto now included in large institutional portfolios. So times are changing. And I think I've seen Texas adopting some crypto for their currency. Don't quote me on that. But.
No, I think Texas bought $10 million worth of Bitcoin for Christmas, I think. Which is pretty amazing. Texas is not a small place. I think it's larger than like 4 European countries put together or something, the GDP of Texas. So it's actually quite a big deal that they decided to put some on there. I think it's their pension investment fund or something.
Yeah, that is really interesting because when I think of Texas, I think of it as mostly conservative, jumping into the foray of crypto. Yeah. So how did you, just curious, so like what is your relationship with their investing in crypto? You started 13 years ago. I'm not an expert by any means in crypto, so I'm kind of curious on how you did your research and learned about it over time. So probably a big loaded question.
No, it's okay. Like, I'm into it. I would again still feel like I'm really, really purist about Bitcoin. So then when I first heard about Bitcoin, the phrase crypto didn't exist. It was just a cryptocurrency, and everyone was like, Bitcoin is the only one. There was no other thing that existed. All the other cryptos that are out there are an exact copy of Bitcoin plus a load of other stuff. They add other things in, like they make it faster, or Bitcoin is the original one. Like Ethereum is a copy of Bitcoin. They wanted to make it faster and payments to happen quicker. So when I first really heard about Bitcoin, I got into it because I was, trying to find somewhere to put my money that I'd earned, the energy that I'd given to the world, to try and like put that somewhere that didn't lose value. Because at that time, when I heard about Bitcoin, I was a musician. I'd been doing music. I'd like been to university and done a sound engineering degree, and I was making like not much money. I was just about scraping by, but I knew that I was kind of adding some value to the world, and I wanted to put my money somewhere where I thought it was going to retain its value and keep its purchasing power. And so the way I kind of got into Bitcoin was that I was pretty young then. And even at that age, early 20s, I understood that no one saves their money in their government currency. Like no one keeps dollars in the bank and thinks that in 50 years time, it's going to be worth more. I mean, that's just dumb. I mean, I don't know who thinks that's a good idea. And saving in pounds, I could see that, even when you were a kid, the pound doesn't buy as much as it did when you were a kid to like when you're an adult. And we have this chocolate bar called a Mars bar, and it's smaller now than it was back in the day, and they've sort of done shrinkflation to it. And you're kind of aware that stuff is getting more expensive, so you think, I need to find some way. So that was kind of how I got into investing and into Bitcoin. And I was investing in trying to be clever and picking stocks, trying to be clever and investing in gold, trying to be clever, and I did later get into real estate as well. But I was just like trying to beat these Wall Street guys, and I did not understand what I was doing. And the more I studied, the more I understood about investing in stocks, the less confident I became about investing in the stock market. So I bought this Bitcoin without any real understanding of what it was. But suddenly I would look at my stock portfolio, which had been going up like 4, 5, 6%, 7%, something like that per year for the last 5 years or something. Then I look at this Bitcoin thing and I'd be like, hang on a sec, this Bitcoin thing is worth double what my stock portfolio is worth. And I started with hardly anything in there. So then I thought, hang on, what is this thing that I've got which is outperforming everything else that I own? And that's when I really started spending some time understanding it. It was when I understood the thing about how there are only going to be 21 million Bitcoin ever in existence. That was when the penny really dropped for me. And I understood that the reason why our money is losing value is because governments are creating more of it. They're lending, they're receiving $1,000 in deposits and lending out more than $1,000 out to everybody else, effectively creating money. And I realized this Bitcoin thing was like this physical asset that no more could be created of. And I realized, hang on, if a load of people want to buy this, there's not going to be enough for everybody to go around. And that was when I started really piling money into it and understanding this is like nothing else that the world has ever seen. From there, that was when I started. So I actually got into Bitcoin knowing nothing about it, thinking it was like a cool freedom technology and a good way. I was living in India at the time. It was a good way to send money between my British bank account and spend money in India. That's how I got into it, really. But then I got into it and understood what I owned through sort of getting to know about inflation, really, and expansion of the monetary system. So that's my way in, not knowing anything and then finding out later what it was.
Would you be open to sharing how much you've made in your Bitcoin investments?
I can give like percentage, Garen, but like, yeah, I mean, like,
Okay, percentage gains, we'll take that.
yeah, I mean, it's crazy, really. It's over like 30,000% is what I've made on my first initial investments in Bitcoin.
Wow.
But then I've also been buying Bitcoin recently as well. I was buying Bitcoin when it was $30,000. So obviously I've done like a 3, 4, 5x on that. I was buying Bitcoin at $10,000, then I've done a 10x on that. And I was buying Bitcoin like a couple of weeks ago and I'm down like 3 or 4% on that now. So I don't really see it as what am I going to make in terms of a return on Bitcoin. It's more to do with where is a good place to park my money. I've got rental properties. Rental properties for me are like, they're a job. They're like a full-on job managing. And I think you do some real estate investing for sure. I mean, I haven't been able to find out loads about you, dear, but yeah. I know that you're doing some like real estate property developing. And it's a full-time job. Like, even if you have a couple of sides,
managing properties is definitely a job.
Yeah, it's definitely not passive income. And all those people who say it is are lying. Like, it's just not true. Unless, I don't know, maybe when you get to scale, you can start outsourcing a lot of it. But when you're just managing a bunch by yourself, it's really a lot of work. And I was realizing that this Bitcoin thing was growing at 30 or 40% per year on average over the last 17 years. And there must be some way of me putting my wealth into this appreciating asset and basically not having to do anything. And that for me is, it's so liberating to feel like everybody has their unique gift, their unique skill that they bring to the world. You should be able to just put your money into something, save it in money. And then when you're old, it should be worth a little bit more than it was when you saved it, or at least be worth the same. It shouldn't be worth less, like the pound or the dollar. And that for me was just like, okay, great. The freedom that gave me and the weight off my shoulders that I felt as a result of thinking, okay, I don't have to do my job and be a part-time Wall Street investor and beat these algorithms on Wall Street as well. I was just like, oh, thank goodness. I don't have to be like an expert stock picker and beat these like hedge fund managers because I can't. I'm just not smart enough to beat those guys. So it was just a real weight off my shoulders when I realized that Bitcoin is a way to save my economic energy. And that's really the way that I felt about it.
For people who are still doing traditional investments like stocks, bonds, mutual funds, and things like that, you think that the traditional investing advice that people are learning is it failing them? Is it like, or should they still do that? Should they have both investing in alternative and crypto and traditional, or do you think it's totally a failed system?
Yeah, I mean, this is going down the rabbit hole. I would feel that everything that's based on the pound and the dollar and the euro is ultimately chasing its tail. I mean, to sort of beat inflation, real inflation, I mean, our governments would say that it's around like 2 or 3% or 4%, but really it depends what you're trying to buy. If you're trying to buy prime real estate property, if you're looking at a property, beachfront places like the place I'm staying in at the moment, the inflation in this kind of property has been 16 or 17% every year since the year 2000. So fine if you're looking at eggs or something, which has been going up 3% or 4% a year. But if you're looking at stuff which is debt-based, which is fueled by debt, then the inflation is much higher. And then to keep up with that, you've got to be investing seriously well to beat these hedge fund managers. And really, yeah, I mean, the more I learned about it, and I went so deep in the rabbit hole, just like reading everything, listening to everything. And the work that I did, especially when I was younger, meant that I could listen to so much content because I was very often working by myself. I just listened to podcasts the whole time. And I would just feel that I thought that I could do a good job and I thought that I was getting good advice, learning about how to invest in the stock market. But when you really look at these guys, the top people on Wall Street, most of them beat the market for 5 to 10 years and they kill it. They absolutely crush it. Then if you look at how many people beat the market over 20 years, the number goes down to 1% of hedge fund managers. Then if you look at over a lifetime, there's basically no hedge fund managers that beat the market for their whole career for 30 or 40 years. And we know the names of those people. It's like Warren Buffett, Peter Lynch, George Soros, like all these huge names. We know who they are because there's so few people that can do it for year after year after year. So if they can't do it year after year after year, what hope do I have as like a normal person who wants to hang out with me? I mean, I'm pretty sure George Soros doesn't chill with his children on the weekends and go to the beach midweek. And like, those guys are going for it the whole time, constantly. And I don't think that if you want to beat Wall Street, I don't think that you're going to have the life that you want, the freedom that you want. You're going to have to knuckle in, do your job and study the markets constantly. So yeah, I would feel like if you want to allocate some money to those things, that's totally cool. Like I think it often, if the easiest way is to do an index fund, so you don't have to do any management of it and try and beat the market, just let the market ride. For me personally, I just think I would rather invest in my own business and Bitcoin. If I'm going to invest in something, that's what I'm going to be investing in now. I'm not going to be getting involved in stock market stuff anymore.
Yeah. So in short, do you think people are just overcomplicating investing? They should just invest in crypto.
As I say, how much more relaxed would our lives be if you just do, like, you're very good at developing real estate, very good at designing real estate. You just do that work, add value to the world, take your money and save it in the dollar, and know that in 30 years' time, you're going to have whatever you save is going to be there and it's going to be more valuable than what you save now. So if you could save $100,000 in your currency and know that in 30 years' time, when you want to retire and you don't feel like working anymore, that would be enough to live on, you would do it. You'd be like, oh, cool. Like, I don't have to beat the market and study the markets on the weekends and my evenings in the middle of the night. That's the value proposition that Bitcoin brings. It's saying you can just put your money in this asset, hold it for a really long time. Don't look at it for ages. It's going to go up and down for quite a long time. It's going to bounce up and down, but it's generally up. And in 30 years' time, I think people are going to be pretty happy with where it ends up. And so, yeah, I feel like it's just, if we're trying to do like a real freedom and a real sort of wealthy lifestyle that isn't just thinking about money, it's about relational wealth and like health wealth and like all the different aspects that wealth brings. I don't think being able to beat the markets is actually possible anymore. So I would just feel like if you really, really want to invest in the stock market, yeah, go for an index fund, but try to pick stocks anymore. Are you really going to beat the AI algorithms now?
I know, but it's tough. And if you're not spending like your whole day and that's your job, then who has time to do that, right?
I know. Especially when you put children in the mix.
Talking about going up and down, I know. Time is so short when you have kids. Your day goes by so fast and you're like, where did the time go?
Yeah.
Talking about going up and down, when a lot of people think about investing in Bitcoin or investing in crypto, they think it's a lot of people still have the sentiment that it's very speculative and volatile, and how does that go with, building your long-term wealth? Like, why do people still think that? Do you think it's still speculative?
Yeah, I mean, Bitcoin is still early. If you're getting into Bitcoin now, you might look and think, oh, it's like $90,000 or $100,000 for one Bitcoin. Like, all you need to do to find out whether you're early or whether you're late is just walk around your city and ask a few people, hey, like, can I pay you in Bitcoin? Or next time you pay for coffee, ask if you can pay in Bitcoin. Or next time you do a deal with your contractor, just say, hey, is it okay if we pay in Bitcoin? Or what do you know about Bitcoin? No one will know anything about Bitcoin. By the end of this podcast, you will know more about Bitcoin than pretty much every person on the planet. Like, the 1% of the planet know a little bit about Bitcoin. And that's just a sign that we're super early still. No one really understands it. Very few people are investing in it. Only a very niche amount of people that are getting into it. So we're still early. And because of that, it's still a volatile asset. You're in the wild west of investing into something which is brand new. Like, it's Amazon early days when everybody was like trashing Amazon and saying, this is never going to work. It's never going to be in profit. It's like in the building stage of Bitcoin at the moment. And also, if you want to have some like decent upside, there's got to be some reasonable risk as well. But I think as time goes on, especially over the last 5 years, the risk to return ratio is getting not so good for us as investors. It's becoming much less volatile. I think the real Wild West days were kind of 10, 7, 12 years ago. That was when it was like, is Bitcoin going to crash? Is there going to be a bug? Is somebody going to hack it? Is the government going to shut it down? Is it going to boil the oceans? No one's going to allow this thing to take place. Like, are they going to confiscate it from us? Like, all of those risks were all baked into Bitcoin, and the price reflected that. As time goes on, when you have Texas spying it, you have the governments in the USA saying we're going to hold it. You have other governments in the world saying we're going to use it as currency. You have like illicit states around the world settling oil transactions in it because they're locked out of the SWIFT system. It's starting to become a thing that the risk is going down. The returns will also go down, but we're still looking at like 20, 30, 40% return every year. So I don't think that I think it will still be volatile, but I think the most volatile periods are actually over. And just finish with this to sum that one out. If you held Bitcoin and you have a low time preference, like you want to focus on the future a long way ahead, you don't have a high time preference where you want to spend your money now. Your time preference is low as an investor. If you held Bitcoin at any point in its 17-year history for longer than 4 years, you would be in profit. The only people who've lost money in Bitcoin specifically, I'm not talking about all the other cryptocurrencies, I'm talking about Bitcoin, the main asset in crypto. Bitcoin is like 3 times the size of the next biggest cryptocurrency in terms of market cap. If you held it for longer than 4 years, you would be in profit. If you held it for 8 years, you would be massively in profit, most of the time 4x in your money. So I think it really depends on your time preference. And if you buy Bitcoin and then you freak out because it goes down 30% the next year and you sell it, then you will lose money and it is volatile. But if you just buy it and hold it and you don't worry about it, I think most people will be pretty pleased with returns.
I think that's the same idea and strategy for a lot of traditional investing also. Buy and hold and just kind of write it out. Don't get freaked out if the market goes down.
Yeah.
That's when people start selling everything.
Yeah. The best performing stock portfolios are the ones owned by dead people that they can't find who the owners of the portfolios are.
It's funny. I dabbled in buying some crypto like 10 years ago. I think it was.
Oh, wow.
8 or 10 years ago. I think it was 2017, and Bitcoin was worth about 40,000 back then, around 2017, and that was a high, and everybody was freaked out that was the highest it's ever been. And now I think today it's probably close to a little over 90,000.
Correct. Yeah.
So definitely, if you've been holding it since then, you've doubled your money.
Yeah.
If you were able to wait it out.
Yeah. I mean, the miracle is.
It's so funny. I remember, and it was so hokey back then too, trying to buy it. I think I was trying to sign up for like a Kraken account, and it was like, please take a picture of your face and hold a sign saying, I am dear, on their field pad with my driver's license.
Yeah.
It was so hokey back then, and now it's so much easier to buy these things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just going to get better. It's just going to get more integrated into society. And I sort of feel like people who are I know gold is at an all-time high. Like, everybody's like congratulating gold bugs at the moment. But I really feel like the world is just getting more digital. If you think the world is going to go more analog and we're going to go back to using gold coins to trade with, buy gold. But I don't think the world is going that way. I think we're only going to get more digital. And if we're going to get more digital, young people particularly are going to be digital natives. They're going to understand that they want to keep their money in something digital. They're not going to buy gold to hold it anymore. So I think that, just look as what's happening to the world. Money is going to become digital. And the last kind of thing on the internet that hasn't been disrupted, the last sector which hasn't been disrupted by technology, is money itself. Like, I don't think money has been disrupted yet. And I think Bitcoin could be the disruptor to the financial industry.
That's so funny you mentioned gold, because I actually had a question from a listener specifically about gold. And the question was, and I'll go to it now since you brought it up, a lot of people are calling Bitcoin digital gold. But this past year in 2025, gold nearly doubled. Bitcoin ended the year pretty volatile and roughly flat. So how should investors be thinking about Bitcoin versus gold looking forward into the future, into 2026?
Well, I think it's back to that time preference thing. I mean, if you bought gold at the start of 2025 and held it for 1 year and you're selling it now, then you will have doubled your money. But you're going to have to do that whole thing again, where you're going to have to spend your whole time understanding the gold markets, listening to all the different podcasts about gold, trying to beat all the investors, and you're basically becoming a trader again. But if you bought gold 17 years ago, you would have been doing absolutely nothing for such a long time. Gold's done nothing for the last 17 years. It's been basically flat, a little bit up, a little bit down, but pretty much doing nothing. And it's done all of its gains in the last 2 years, I think. Might get me totally wrong in the timings, but essentially it's been pretty boring. Same with silver as well. Silver has been so boring for such a long time. You buy silver and you would have lost money for the last 16 years. And then suddenly, the end of 2025, silver pumped and has gone to an all-time high. I think that's almost like a precursor for what's going on in the world. People are de-risking from the dollar. People are starting to become a bit less sure about what's going to happen in the world. And it feels risky. So people run to gold as a sort of hedge against risk. But I think really, if you want to settle, like $1 billion transaction in gold, you're going to have to fly or on a boat, take this huge tanker across an ocean to another country. And when it gets there, you will have to get somebody to analyze that gold to make sure that it's not titanium inside of it or some other tungsten inside the gold to make sure it's pure. You will then have to have some armed personnel to watch it go across the ocean and make sure it doesn't get stolen by Somali pirates or something when it's going through the Suez Canal. So many different risks going on with gold that they used to do during the Second World War. Why would people do that when they could just buy Bitcoin, send it, and in 10 minutes, everybody will verify it. The network will check that it's real Bitcoin. And there's going to be no risk of anyone stealing it. You don't need anyone to make sure that it gets flown across an ocean. It's kind of gold 2.0. It's digital gold. And yes, I think just because other assets have performed well, I just think that's not a reason to not look at something like Bitcoin because it had a flat year. If you look at Bitcoin over 4 years, like we were saying, it's been up pretty much, completely smashed gold over 4 years. But yeah, I think it's all about time preference and looking in a long sort of low time preference. Then I think we can talk about comparing different assets. And there may be years when I think Nvidia last year totally dominated every other stock in the world. It was the best asset to invest in. But that means you've got to pick Nvidia over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other stocks. And you've got to pick gold over platinum, over silver, over oil, over copper. Next year, copper might be hitting an all-time high.
Yeah, it makes my head spin. There's so many things to invest in. I want to jump into, you mentioned when I was talking to you earlier, you have some businesses, property, construction. I mean, has your investing in Bitcoin or crypto kind of fueled your other businesses? Has your investing in Bitcoin or crypto and what the wealth that you've kind of built up there fueled your other businesses? You mentioned when I talked to you earlier, you have some property and construction businesses.
I would say that no, it's probably been the other way around. The construction business and gas engineering business, property business, like those three things all have just created income, that we've lived on. We've invested into other things, like the construction would have been profits plowed into the property business. But all the while, I was always buying more Bitcoin through that whole period. So it's actually been more the other way around. And until I sort of got to this stage where I built enough Bitcoin where I could look at it and think, it's not enough now to just turn off and retire for the rest of my life. But based on where I think Bitcoin is going in the future, I'm able to check out of the most time-consuming business, which was the plumbing and the gas engineering business, and look at my Bitcoin stack and just think, I've saved some here, and I believe that Bitcoin is going up only. And as a result of that, it just gives you and this is a thing that you hear a lot of Bitcoiners say, is it makes them think, right, if I own the most valuable asset in the world, the most pristine asset the world has ever seen, what could I do with my time? Like, what would I do if I could choose to do anything? And that's kind of the question I was asking myself a few years ago. When I really started understanding Bitcoin, those other businesses enabled me to be able to save into Bitcoin. And as a result of that, yeah, it was definitely that way round. Those businesses allowed me to buy more Bitcoin and save into Bitcoin. And that would just be a lovely way for everybody to live, I think, is if everybody felt like I don't have to break my back doing two jobs. I can just focus on the one job that I know I'm good at, the one skill I'm good at. I can save into Bitcoin. What would I do if I could just know that I'm not going to be hungry in 30 years' time? And that would really, I think, make the world a lovely place. It would make everybody much happier, make everybody much freer. And that's kind of what it was for me. So no, those businesses definitely fueled more, the profits from those businesses were every now and then, the more I understood about Bitcoin, I would just smash buy Bitcoin. I just realized, oh my gosh, I have to own more Bitcoin. And then I would just buy a load of Bitcoin. My wife would message me and be saying, oh my gosh, our bank account has been scammed. Like, we've lost all our money. I'd be like, don't worry, it's all gone into Bitcoin. We've got nothing in our bank. We can't buy groceries, but we've just got loads of Bitcoin now. So that was kind of all I did, was every now and then I would just get more conviction around it and then would just buy more.
What do you think about dollar cost averaging with Bitcoin?
I think it's more to do with your character and your temperament. I'm just a bit too erratic for that. I would love to have been that kind of person that just bought it regularly. But also the way that I earned money over the last 10 or 15 years has been quite lumpy. So one month, summer month, it's not a good month for gas engineering. And then December, January, February is a great month because it's very cold and there's a lot of work to be done. So then you would get like a big payoff in January, February, March, and then renovate a property and sell it, and then you get some profit. And then, so for me, I've never had a job where I get paid every month. I can't really describe what that's like to have a salary. So I've only ever taken, I do dividends in the UK, like from my businesses, but the dividends would come when the business was like, in a good place. You think, okay, cool, we can take a dividend this quarter. Like, so then we would take a dividend and get paid. And so I would just buy it like more erratically. But I think if you are someone who works in a business and you're an employee, maybe your income is much more stable and you understand that you're going to get paid the same every month. And yeah, I think that would be a lovely thing. I've never known what that's like. I've never experienced it. That is a very smart way for people to, buy Bitcoin once a week or once a month whenever they get paid, just to buy a tiny bit of Bitcoin. Almost even if you really hate me and everything I'm saying about Bitcoin is triggering you, isn't it a good idea just to buy a tiny bit just as insurance? Like, wouldn't it have been good 10 years ago when you heard about Bitcoin just to buy $100 of Bitcoin? And then that would just be insurance against what I'm saying being true.
Yeah, I mentioned daily cost averaging mostly for the risk, in a way to de-risk the ups and downs of the Bitcoin price. Where, earlier last year, 2 years, Bitcoin was only like 30,000. It had dropped pretty low. And now it's had been trending back up over the past year, and hopefully will keep going up this coming year, but just to de-risk the ups and downs, because it can be kind of somewhat volatile.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good idea. I've just never been disciplined enough to do that.
So I want to dive into, I took a peek at your Instagram and I saw you've been traveling. And obviously my show is called Invest and Roam because one of the topics I love to talk about is traveling, especially if you have kids, and exploring the world while you're doing this investing. And so where are you still traveling now? Tell us about your travels.
Yeah, so last year, December 2025, that's when I sold the gas engineering business. And it timed well with just deciding the house that we lived in. The other business I have is called an HMO in the UK, House of Multiple Occupancy, where you take a family house and you split it into multiple rooms. And then normally young professionals will rent those rooms. So me and a friend have a business that does that.
Oh, it's called co-living. We're calling it co-living here.
Okay, yeah. Co-living. Okay, yeah. We call it HMOs here. I mean, some people call it co-living, but you need a license called a HMO license if you do that. So I have an HMO business with a friend as well. We have a couple of properties. And then I turned our family home into an HMO, which is rented out now, which when I bought that house, from when we got it, I already knew this is going to be a great HMO one day. So I was already planning that in my head. Like when we bought the worktops in the kitchen, I was thinking, let's not spend too much money on these worktops because it's going to be an HMO one day. So all the decisions I was making was kind of in preparation for this trip, knowing that we were going to do this. So when I sold my business, we took our kids out of school, started homeschooling our kids. And we set off. We've been in Asia for most of the time. We've been in Malaysia, Borneo, Vietnam, Indonesia, and Bali is where we spent most of last year. And we came back we were gone for 8 months and we came back to London. We've been in London for like 3 months till Christmas. Yeah. And effectively we thought that would be it. We would just go back into schools, back into something. But we kind of just got the feels and we realized, oh, it's actually going okay. Like financially, it's going okay. I thought we would come back broke, but it didn't happen. So I'm like, well, I'm really surprised that this is going well. So actually now we're in Cornwall right now, which is in the UK. So we're kind of like traveling here, but we just rented a house for a while just to have a nice little time in an English sort of seaside area. But then in March, so we just got January and February in the UK, and then in March we're going to South America most of next year.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's like I think it's called slow traveling with kids.
Yeah.
You're like the bucket list family.
Yeah, I mean, like we probably sort of got our kids into it through watching Bucket List Family, but unfortunately I didn't sell my tech business for like $20 million or whatever that guy did. He like crushed it in tech and then had a total like phase out thinking I don't want to do this anymore. And I'm like, also, I mean, I did do a few pictures and stuff while we're traveling, but it can be so consuming when you're doing that stuff to like take loads of videos and edit videos. And then the kids are like running into the sea. You're like, oh, wait, just like do it again. Like pretend you're having a good time and run it again. Nah, like we just were not up for that. So we just took a few pictures and just kind of thought, we're doing this for us. We don't want to like create like a whole Instagram vibe. And there are a lot of those people from the UK who go and do that and get sponsors for their great, like bless you, like if you're doing that, but I just get too drawn into that social media thing and just scrolling on social media as well if you're posting on it too much. So yeah, we're just traveling, having a good time, and we're having a better time than it looks like on the pictures rather than the other way around.
That's awesome. That's what your lifestyle is, what I'm aspiring to. Hopefully sending the kids on a world trip.
It's so good. Yeah. Like, I can't even recommend it enough. Like you think that
how is the homeschooling though? Your school?
The homeschooling is actually fun, particularly when you're traveling. Our kids are doing better now academically than they were when they were in school, and that surprised me a lot. Homeschooling is like a big thing in America, right? But it's not so big in the UK. But we only school our kids for like 3 or 4 hours in the morning, and we did that because we wanted to be able to enjoy traveling, but we've continued to do that since we've come back. And you get through the whole curriculum in about 3 hours. And I thought, this can't be real. This can't be true. But when you talk to your kids, especially if they're young, and you try and add up all the stuff that the kids do in the day, like you ask them like, okay, when you get to school, what do you do? Oh, we have assembly. And then what do you do? Oh, we like queue up in the hallway. And then what do you do? Then we sit down and like sort the coloring pencils out, and you're like, okay, right. So when do you do some work? You add up how much time they're actually learning at school. It's only like 4 hours, and a load of that is like interruptions as well. So I was like really shocked that we've actually managed to teach the kids anything. And there's so many good resources out there now that help you. And yeah, I mean, our kids are doing better now than they were when they were in school, and they love being homeschooled. If they're ever misbehaving, the threat is, if you don't settle down to this work, you're going straight back to school. I'll find you a school to go to. And they're like, no, we don't want to go back to school.
That's funny. That's a good one. Yeah. Well, that's awesome. It makes sense when you break it down, and the number of hours. Yeah, it totally makes sense because, their school day is, recess, playground, and the actual learning time. Well, instead of that, they could be out meeting people out in the world and exploring the world and learning new things.
Yeah. Also, they've grown in confidence so much. I mean, when we came back, like one of our friends was like, I can't, talking about one of our kids, they were like, wow, she's really grown up and just got so confident. I'm like, yeah, because we're in these places and she has to talk to like people in a different language and try and learn how to ask for things. And, just like boosted their confidence so much to be going around foreign places and navigating airports and travel on taxis. And, it's not just the academic learning which they're getting. And who knows what kind of world our kids are going to be entering when they get to like 20, 22, what the job market is going to be, if any of the jobs that we think they're going to do are even going to exist anymore, or is it all going to be like relational jobs? Is it going to be to do with how they engage with people? And I don't know, it's just like more than an academic thing, I think, when we went away with them.
For sure. Yeah, the world is changing, especially with all this AI. I think there's going to be more emphasis on having the social skills, being real. There's so much fakey AI, especially on social media out there, and writing and copy, that, there's going to be more importance on building relationships and being real and talking to people.
Mm.
Yeah. Cool. I have one more question, and this is a tricky question. I don't really know much about it myself, but this is from a listener, so I'm going to ask it. Vitalik Buterin, I think I'm saying his name right, maybe not. He's the co-founder of Ethereum. He stated that quantum computing, are you familiar? He wrote an article about it. Are you familiar with this article? He wrote and said that it's going to break the security of Bitcoin eventually. True, not true? What are your thoughts on that? And he historically is the other side of Bitcoin, I think, right? Opposing side, maybe.
Yeah. So Vitalik, I'm not even worthy to say anything negative about him because he is a genius. He created Ethereum. You know, he's took Bitcoin and made it faster, basically, and did a few other kooky things to it. But he also created a coin that he could create more of if he wants to. So he's also a billionaire now as well. So the founder of Bitcoin has disappeared. You know, he's gone. Like, I don't know where he is, but I think that's pretty cool to like make something as world changing as Bitcoin that then created Ethereum in the end and then disappear and not even be rich. So I can't really say anything about Vitalik because he's so clever. So there will definitely be an element that he's definitely right. And I think it is true that eventually quantum will break Bitcoin's code and someone will be able to steal all the Bitcoins from everybody's Bitcoin addresses. Let's just say that could happen and Vitalik is totally right. What would be the purpose of that, of stealing everyone's Bitcoins? If you steal everyone's Bitcoins, the Bitcoins you steal will be worthless. It's not like stealing a load of dollars and then you've got the dollars. As soon as that happens, Bitcoin will go to zero. But I think once quantum computing actually arrives, the Bitcoin code is like 120, you know, to break Bitcoin, you have to break this 128 character password, basically. It's called SHA-256. And it's like 256 character password, SHA-256. I don't understand it. I'm not a super technical guy in that way, but it's complicated to break, complicated enough that right now it's not possible to hack. Like, what is going to be more difficult if quantum computing comes along? I don't think Bitcoin is going to be what we're worried about. We're going to be worried about all our PIN codes for our banking cards, which are like 4 digits. I mean, that is definitely going to be more concerning. What about the codes for all our online banking? That's going to be easy for quantum computing to break. What about the nuclear codes? What about the codes that clean all of, like, break into the computers that clean all of our water systems? And
don't say, oh my God, don't think nuclear codes. It's the end of us all.
Well, it's so worrying. Like, I really think that the quantum thing, it potentially is true, but really when that comes along, breaking Bitcoin is not going to be what we're worried about. There's a lot of other things we're going to be more concerned about at that stage. And actually, there are some very clever guys in Bitcoin already working on how they're going to tackle that when it does happen. But Bitcoin moves very slowly. It's not like Ethereum because Vitalik is kind of in charge of Ethereum. If he says something happens, he just changes it. It's like a company. Whereas Bitcoin is run by a consensus network. So they are working on a potential fix to the quantum issue, but it will come around slowly. And when it comes around, it will be implemented slowly, but it'll be implemented in a way which makes sure there's no bugs that will really affect the rest of Bitcoin. So yes, he's right. But yes, there are people working on how to fix that.
Well, that is very reassuring. Okay, so we're headed toward the end of our time, and I always like to ask a few rapid fire questions. Quick questions, quick answer. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Bitcoin or traditional index funds? What do you choose?
Obviously, Bitcoin.
Yeah. What's one belief that keeps everyday earning people poor in investing? Maybe their mindset, or what is it?
Yeah, that like the harder you work, the more you earn. I really thought that for such a long time. I just thought, no. The more you work, the more you can earn. Like I thought that's how you get rich. You just work a lot. I didn't read Rich Dad Poor Dad until I was like in my late 20s. I didn't understand that whole thing about leveraging assets. So yeah, I think I wish more people knew that. It's not how the more you work, the more you earn, maybe to a certain extent. I think that is probably the biggest misconception.
One of my favorite sayings is work smarter, not harder.
I wish I understood that when I was younger.
All right, next question. Best financial habit for busy people?
Apart from learn about Bitcoin, take a bit of time from your busy schedule to learn a tiny bit about Bitcoin. I would say probably dollar cost averaging is, if you are a busy person, then dollar cost averaging is the best way. If you don't have time to trade the markets, buy the dip, when prices go down, you buy it, you miss it because you're busy at work. I think dollar cost averaging is actually a really smart tactic.
I agree. Lastly, comfort or freedom? Really random general question.
Yeah, no, but I think that my life has dictated that already. And I think I've always chosen freedom over more money, more comfort. Like, we don't have a home right now. So I think that is a sign that we're choosing freedom over comfort for sure.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. This was really fun and really great insight. I learned a ton about Bitcoin and some crypto knowledge. Thanks for joining. So where can our listeners find you? More about you.
Thanks, dear. No, it's really nice to talk to you. And I love talking to people about Bitcoin and telling them more about it. But yeah, I mean, my podcast is called Should I Invest in Bitcoin? If you want to get in touch with me, my website's mylesdhillon.com, but you can get all that from the podcast, Should I Invest in Bitcoin?
Yeah. Awesome. And we'll definitely put links down below in the show notes for everybody.
Sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I know it's nighttime here. It's daytime over here in California. Thanks for joining us, Myles. And
thank
have
you.
A good evening.
Thank you for making time. That's really kind of you.
Thanks for joining today's episode of Invest in Rome. If you found value in this episode, please share it with a friend. New episodes dropping weekly. Like, follow, and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Dear No. Keep investing, keep roaming, and keep living the life you deserve.